Hello and good day to you. Welcome to Codex English with me, Mike Bullen. I hope you've been having a lovely week so far. So, this is Newsflash, the series in which we go over some of the world's biggest news headlines from across the globe and, of course, explore the English behind the stories. Now, this is a special episode for this week's video in which we will be focusing on the United Nations Climate Change Conference, which has been happening in Glasgow, Scotland this week, otherwise known as COP26. So, all three news stories we'll be looking at today are based on the COP26 conference. So, now that I've made that clear, let's check out the stories and find out what was going on at the conference in Glasgow this week. Let's go! All right, so our first story of the day takes us to the New York Times website. So let's see what we have today for the first story. Okay, here we are then. The headline reads, Global leaders pledge to end deforestation by 2030. Right, so the global leaders pledge. That's the first word of the day, and it is a verb. If you pledge to do something, that means you promise in a very serious way to do something, to pledge something. Okay then, so the next word there is deforestation. Global leaders pledge to end deforestation by 2030. Deforestation is a noun here, and it comes from the verb to deforest, which means to cut down trees. That's what it means there. Just cut down trees. Deforestation. Okay. All right then. So let's find an interesting paragraph to learn some more about this story today. Okay, here we go in language focus mode. Leaders of more than 100 countries, including Brazil, China, Russia, and the United States, vowed at climate talks in Glasgow to end deforestation by 2030 in a landmark agreement that encompasses some 85% of the world's forests. Okay, so here we go. Let's have a look at our first word in this paragraph. We have got the verb vow, vow, vow. Okay, now this is similar to that previous word we did, pledge. Again, it means to make a very serious promise if you vow to do something, okay, to vow. For example, Jessica vowed to travel the world next year. Okay, so there we go. That is vowed there. So, these countries here, they vowed at climate talks in Glasgow to end. So, vow to do something. To end deforestation, there's that noun again, by 2030 in a landmark agreement. Okay, so landmark is actually a noun, but we can see it goes before another noun here. So you might think it's actually an adjective, but indeed, it is actually a noun before another noun, which can sometimes happen in English. A landmark is simply a very important event that has happened in the process of something. For example, if you get your dream job, then that would be a landmark event in your life. So a landmark, just a very important event there. Okay, so in a landmark agreement that encompasses. So this is a verb here, to encompass, and it means to either include or to cover. Include or cover. So in this sentence here, the landmark agreement encompasses some 85% of the world's forest. Okay, so we can change this word to includes, an agreement that includes some 85%, or we can even change it to covers, an agreement that covers some 85% of the world's forests. You see, so that's what it means. Very similar to cover and include, encompasses. Okay. Okay, that was the first story of the day for COP26. So let's move on to story number 2 for today's video. The second story of today's COP26 Newsflash special brings us to the BBC website. So let's have a look at the second headline of the video. here we are. So, COP26 Climate Change Summit. So far, so good. Ish. Okay, so that's interesting, isn't it? So we all know the common expression, so far so good, no problem. So far everything is okay. But here we've got so far so good-ish. Okay then, so what does that mean? Okay, if you see an adjective with a hyphen and then ish on the end, it means kind of or not very. Okay, so in this example here, goodish, it means, yeah, not bad, not great. Not great either. Okay, so it's just good, goodish, okay. So that's all it means there. All right then, so let's go into the article and find ourselves a paragraph to explore. Okay, here we go. Expectations for this conference were low, but seasoned COP observers have been pleasantly surprised by a slew of announcements which suggest the world is on an unstoppable path to a low-carbon future. Okay, so the sentence begins, expectations for this conference were low. So if you have low expectations for something, then you feel it will not be very good, or the outcome will not be very good. Okay, so for example, if I go to the movies, but I think the movie is going to be bad, that means I will have low expectations for that movie. Okay, there we go. So expectations for this conference were low, but seasoned COP observers. Okay, so this ADJ here, seasoned means experienced. You have a lot of experience to doing something. Seasoned. So that's the ADJ, and the noun is observers. So an observer is someone who watches, and that comes from the verb to observe, which means to watch. Observe and watch. Okay. So the observers have been pleasantly surprised by. ADV and a verb here. So to be pleasantly surprised by something means that you expected something to be bad or not very good, to have low expectations for something. However, it ended up being much better than you expected. So, for example, we go to see that movie I was talking about earlier. You have low expectations for it, but it turned out to be pretty good in the end. Yeah, I enjoyed it. So I was pleasantly surprised. Yeah, it was nice. It was much better than I thought. Okay, so the observers have been pleasantly surprised by a slew of announcements. Okay, so a slew is a noun, slew. This word here is for counting an amount of something. Okay, it means very, 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 very much. Okay, a lot of something. A slew of something, many, many things, okay. For example, take this sentence. The writer received a slew of compliments for his new novel. There we are then. So, a slew of announcements then, which suggests the world is on an unstoppable path to a low-carbon future. ADJ, unstoppable, means something cannot be stopped, okay? It's unstoppable. Okay, there we go. That was story number 2 for this week's episode. So, let's check out the final and third story of the week. Our third and final story for today's video takes us to AP News. Let's check it out. Okay, so the headline reads, Greta Thunberg calls UN climate talks a failure. Okay, simple enough. She's saying that the climate talks are a failure. Okay, so let's get into language focus mode and see why she said that. Greta Thunberg branded the UN climate talks in Glasgow so far a failure, accusing leaders of actively creating loopholes in the rules and greenwashing their country's emissions. All right then, so Greta, she branded the UN climate talks. Okay, so to brand something just means to give that thing a name. So in this case, Greta named the UN climate talks so far as a failure. She's calling it that thing, to call something a whatever it is you're saying, okay? There we go. So, a failure. Accusing leaders. Okay then, another verb here. To accuse somebody of something is to say that person did something. For example, my best friend accused me of eating all of his chocolate biscuits. Wasn't me. Okay, there we go. So that is it. To accuse somebody of something. There we are. So she is accusing leaders of actively, ADV. If you do something actively, it means that you do something with positive action. By your own choice. You really try to do something there. Okay? Of actively creating loopholes. So, a loophole, this is a mistake in some rules. So normally rules or laws will be written down and a loophole will be a small mistake in the rules. And if there is a loophole, you can use the loophole to not follow the rules. All right, there we go. So loophole there, creating loopholes in the rules and greenwashing their country's emissions. So to greenwash refers to not taking an environmental issue very seriously. So she's saying here, Greta is accusing these people of not taking the environmental problems very seriously, or they just want to ignore it or make it seem less serious than it really is. So that is greenwashing there. And the reason they use green is because green is the color that's normally used for the environment, okay? To greenwash. There we are. Okay, that was the third and final story of today's COP26 Newsflash special. Well, there we go. That brings us to the end of today's Newsflash episode, which focused on the COP26 talks in Glasgow this week. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give the video a like. Also note that links to the articles featured in today's video will be down below in the description and comments. And I will also include a list of all the major key vocabulary from today's video in the comments as well. So if you do have any questions about the words, feel free to ask me down below in the comments. Okay, so I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Cheerio.